Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another in our series of the Dean Conversation series. This is a very special series for two reasons. First, we were able to get 2 of our 6 alums who are in the Illinois legislature to join us today. And we know they're very busy, so we appreciate them coming out and being with us. A little tidbit there is that now that we're part of the UI contingent, I understand we have about 65 people that we can call our own in some way, but wow. Our 6 are the law school's own. The other reason this is special is because yesterday was Chief Justice John Marshall's birthday. So for each of our 2 guests, I have found a relic from the bicentennial of the United States. And on that cue, they could, if they want to, see what's inside. But it celebrates our founders' name.
And of course, I think you tied it so well. That. Oh, wow. This is great. That's nice. I don't want to ruin the bubble wrap.
The bubble wrap. So a little something to depict John Marshall in your offices.
That's very nice.
I'm very grateful today that Associate Dean Sam Jones has agreed to moderate. He does a lot of speaking and writing of issues of current concern, so he was the perfect person to take on this challenge. And at this point, I'll turn the program over to Dean Jones. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Darby. So I have the privilege of introducing you to these 2 distinguished gentlemen, and I'll go in alphabetical order. First is State Senator Michael Hastings, Democrat.
Yep.
He currently represents the 19th Illinois Senate District, which includes part of Cook and Will County. He holds a bachelor's degree from the U.S. Military Academy, West Point, an MBA with honors from University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana, and a Juris Doctor from the John Marshall Law School. Woo. He grew up in Orland. Right. He grew up in Orland Hills, Illinois, and served 10 years in the U.S. Army. During his military service, he rose to the rank of captain while deployed in support of the global war on terrorism. He is the recipient of multiple military honors, including the Bronze Star Medal and the 1st Infantry Division Combat Patch for meritorious service in the combat zone. In 2009, he was elected to the District 230 Board of Education, the 5th largest high school district in Illinois. In 2012, he was elected to the Illinois State Senate, becoming one of the youngest senators in Illinois history. In addition to serving in the Illinois Senate, Senator Hastings practices law in the southwest suburbs. Senator Hastings is married and has a 3-year-old son, and he and his wife are expecting a 2nd child imminently.
If I run out of here, you know why.
State Representative Chris Roach, Democrat, currently serves the 7th District in the Illinois House of Representatives, which includes all or parts of River Forest, Forest Park, Maywood, Broadview, Bellwood, Hillside, Westchester, LaGrange Park, and Berkeley. He holds a BA from Northwestern University and a JD from the John Marshall Law School. He grew up in Proviso Township and attended Proviso Township schools. He served as board president for the Proviso Township High School District 209 Board of Education for 10 years, which led to the creation of the Proviso Math and Science Academy. He previously served as chair of the House Higher Education Committee, where he led efforts to pass historic legislation like the 4-year MAP Grant Award and the Aim High Scholarship. In 2018, Governor-elect J.B. Pritzker appointed State Representative Welch to the Educational Success Transition Committee, which is responsible for state education policy. In addition to serving in the Illinois House of Representatives, State Representative Welch also practices law. His legal experience includes overseeing and managing defense for municipalities and school districts. He is also a certified administrative hearing officer. State Representative Welch is married and has 2 children. Please join me in welcoming these 2 distinguished gentlemen to the UIC John Marshall Law School. So there were a number of questions that we thought about when we considered this event. And through polling and discussions, we came up with questions that we thought would be of interest to the student body here. And one of the quintessential questions that the students were most interested in was hearing about your respective journeys and why did you choose to serve the public in that capacity as a lawmaker?
Yeah, the Senate always leads,
I'm
right?
pulling my socks off.
Oh, yeah, these mics.
Oh,
Testing,
yeah.
can you hear me?
Lights are on.
Can you guys hear me? I wanted to mention one thing that's not in my bio. I got to change that line because it's important now. Is that my wife is also a lawyer who graduated from the John Marshall Law School. That's very important. You know, I was that kid that always wanted to be a lawyer. And when I was in grade school and high school and in college, I was always involved in student government. So I would say my love of law and politics kind of grew together. And I feel like I'm living my best life. I feel like I'm living my best life because I get to practice law at a great law firm here in downtown Chicago and get to serve my district that I grew up in the Illinois legislature. And I think the two careers marry each other very well. And I've actually used both in crossover capacities. So I would say just, starting out as a kid in school with a love of the law from watching TV shows and loving student government and politics, it all just came together perfectly.
So I have a really unique path to becoming a lawyer. I served in Iraq from 2006 to 2007, so I can officially say I've been to Iraq, Iran, Syria, and now I've been to Springfield. So it's been a wonderful journey. And so I know it's a bad joke for some people in the room, but that's okay. When I was in the military, we would give money to families in Iraq that we either had mistakenly injured or killed one of their family members. And so we would give them, it's called CERT money, and you always had to get it approved by a lawyer. And so I always found lawyers to be very analytical, very well thought out in their reasoning. And then when I got out of the military, I served on a school board, and it was then when I really realized the importance of having a lawyer at your side when you make decisions, because you may have the best ideas, but they may have the worst second and third order effects. It's nice having good legal mentors and good legal examples and to urge you and to coach you and to mentor you into becoming a lawyer. And I was urged to go be a lawyer for various reasons. One lawyer told me it was a license to print money. That was true. But I think the main thing is you're able to help people. And I think that's the most important thing. Whether you choose to be a constitutional lawyer, election lawyer, family lawyer, whatever it may be, you can help a lot of people and truly make a difference in their life. And whether it's service into my country, service to my community, it's always good to give back and to help people, and the law license definitely allows for that.
Thank you for those responses. So one of the things that we oftentimes are telling students in our classes is to be thinking not only about the present, but about the future, what you hope to accomplish. Have dreams, always stay true to your dreams, work very hard towards them. Could you tell the students if there's anything in particular that you hope to accomplish through your political careers in the next several years that are really important to you?
Well, I think from a political perspective, people always ask, what's next, or how long are you going to serve in the legislature? And I tell them I love my job, and if I feel like I'm just going down there because I like the paycheck that legislators get, which I don't know too many people who like the paycheck that legislators get. That's why we both still practice law. As long as I have a passion for what I'm doing, I'm going to continue to do it. And I got to tell you, being able to go home and help that constituent that reached out to you because they had a really difficult issue and was going through a difficult situation in their family, you get a high from that, just being able to help people. Seeing what's happening in Illinois right now with our colleges and universities as a direct result of work that a small group of us did a couple of years ago when Illinois was going through a tough time, that's rewarding. Seeing how your policy work is actually impacting the state and helping us improve and head in a positive direction. I mean, really, all you would hear and read about is students leaving the state of Illinois and coming up with that 4-year MAP grant program and the AIM High scholarship award for students that their families made too much money, but you tell them they make too much money, they look at you funny, and so they leave and go out of state because they get a merit scholarship. That has really made a big impact in putting students back in the seats of Illinois colleges and universities. And I think at the end of the day, that's going to keep people here in our state and continue to have folks as tax-paying citizens of our state and helping us with the Illinois economy. So, it's those types of things that keep you going when you see the positive results of your work.
So I had a unique journey to get to
Again?
be a senator, I think, is probably the key theme of my experience. I actually ran for the Senate when I was here at John Marshall as a student. And some people thought I was just crazy for doing it. One judge told me, Mike, why don't you focus on law school, because law school's hard enough. But the opportunity, the timing, everything was aligning to run for office. And if I didn't get that opportunity at that point in time, I probably would have had to have waited another 20, 25 years to do that. So a lot of people at that period of time were saying, don't do it, it's not good, focus on your law degree. Look, if you have a chance to run for the Senate and have a legitimate opportunity to win, you do it. Now, raising a couple $100,000 while you're in law school taking evidence class isn't fun. Jack Dara was my professor, God bless him, he passed away a couple years ago, but I think the maximum amount of classes you can miss is 5. And poor Lisa Sturba, who sat next to me, she told he would call roll call and he'd be like, Hastings, and she sat next to me. She's like, well, he's really busy right now. And then after I won, Jack went through the roll call again, and this is the maximum I would have been able to miss. He said, Hastings, where have you been? And I said, I was running for the Senate and I won. And he goes, well, good, Senator, you can still call me Your Honor and sit your ass down. So, but, when you do something, you got to have a vision to do it. And why are you doing something? What's your purpose? And for me, I had a lot of objectives that I wanted to accomplish. One was mental health and being able to provide adequate mental health treatment to young people in our community. And so everybody knows somebody who has a young person who has a mental health issue. I'm sure everybody knows everybody. Getting a mental health hospital for youth and adolescents in our community was so important to me. It took me 7 years to do it. Last week we just announced that we're going to open one. So you always follow your dreams and don't let nobody tell you can't do anything, even if you're in law school taking evidence class and running for the Senate. Trust me, anything is possible. My hopes for the future, I think Illinois, based on Chris and I's votes this last General Assembly, Illinois is back on a stable track, I would say, at least for now. And I think the projection for certainty, stability is only going to get better in the state of Illinois. With our capital bill and all these other things that we're doing, Illinois has a very bright future regardless of what the news says. And then we're going to continue to work on that.
Thank you. So one of the things that students hear a lot is that, you can do a lot of things with the law degree, and particularly a law degree from the John Marshall Law School. Could you describe how your legal education here at John Marshall Law School, your law degree, how it's helped you and informed your ideas and capacity to serve the public?
Well, I definitely agree with that statement that a law degree can be used in several different ways, and I definitely think it's rewarding when you get that law degree in your hand. I can tell you, I'm 48 years old now and have never ever had to apply for a job. I've always been approached and recruited for the job, and I like to think that's because of my John Marshall Law degree and my educational background and the reputation that I've built out there in the workforce. But I also see, I use my law degree to practice law, but I have encountered several who they don't practice law, but they have used it in the fields that they're in, and it's made them better. Whether they're human resource professionals at the local school district that I was on the school board at, you had lawyers who they were actually HR directors and things of that nature. I think it made them better in the jobs that they do. We have lawyers in the legislature that don't practice law, but I think they're better legislators because of that legal background, their writing abilities, and the amount of things the volume of things that we have to read as law students and lawyers. It prepares you well for the volume of materials that you should read as a legislator. I just don't think you can go wrong getting that law degree. It just makes your life a whole lot better.
I truly think the law license is like an entryway to the big game, the big dance. And who knows somebody that talks a lot and it's always my way or the highway? Raise your hand. Come on, I'm trying to help you burn off your calories from lunch today. Raise your hand if you know somebody like that. The unique characteristic that I find about lawyers is that you have to think about things on, who's for it and who's against it. What are the arguments they're going to use against you if you're for something or vice versa? Most people don't think like that. They think this is my way and that's the way it is. And that skill alone is probably the most valuable skill that lawyers have, and to think through the process. It's very important. The law license opens up so much opportunity job-wise. You can be a staffer. You can be, like Chris said, you can do anything you want just because you have that training as a lawyer. Now, passing the bar is very, very important because that allows you to practice law. And once you have that, the one thing I also learned about John Marshall having a law degree is that once you go start practicing law, you better find a good mentor to learn how to practice law, because you got the fundamental foundation right here at school, but don't think you know the divorce code. You're not going to be a divorce attorney, the best divorce attorney right off the bat. Find someone to learn from. It's just an unbelievable opportunity, and I urge everyone here. I know it's difficult, to whether it's work and go to school full time, whether it's to pay the bills with your student loans. I'm sure some people have student loans. You've started it now, so finish it, because it's a waste of time and money if you don't finish this degree. And like Chris said, I don't think I've ever applied for a job, ever. And I being a solo practitioner or being approached by other people to take a job, they want you because of that degree. So I think it's a great opportunity for everybody in this room. And I told my dad when I first was thinking about going to law school, he's like, you better go, you better. And I'm like, I'm not going. And then I went and I finished, and he's like, I told you so. So yeah, you finish it. It's worth every nickel you spend on this degree.
Thank you for those responses. So one of the things that we talk to students about is perseverance. I like to tell many students that success really doesn't start until you've been punched in the face and you have to overcome it. So you have to get yourself off the ground and actually work really hard. That's how you define success. I don't mean literally. So how could you describe for the students a challenge or something that's difficult that you've had to overcome in your careers, and how you dealt with it? What was life like going, facing that challenge, and what was the outcome, the reward afterwards? Because obviously you're both very successful. You've had to endure a lot of challenges and various experiences. So how did you deal with that, and what was the outcome?
Well, I've been practicing law now since '97, since I graduated, and most people who meet me assume that I've always been a successful practicing lawyer. And many times I have to remind people of my story. I grew up in Maywood and Bellwood, west suburban Chicago. My family was poor, and I was one of 3 boys originally, and then urban Chicago violence took one of my aunts, and she had 3 daughters, and all of a sudden our family of 5 went to a family of 8, but my parents still made the same amount of money. So we got poorer, but we survived and made it. When I went to Northwestern for undergrad, it was because of large financial aid that I was able to go to a place like Northwestern. But I just remember at college graduation, everyone's hugging and kissing, and they're saying, what are you doing next? What are you doing next? And my mom overheard me say, I'm going to John Marshall Law School. I started in August, and I just saw her face. She's like, who's gonna pay for that? I got it, Mom, don't worry about it. I knew I was gonna take out a whole lot of loans. I knew I was gonna work. Thank God for schools like John Marshall, because I went in the evening program. I went at night, worked during the day. That extra year, That was a tough 4 years, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat. But, just struggling and making it, I would tell you, if you're struggling right now, there are better days to come. Don't give up because it's well worth it. I think you actually appreciate it more. I think it makes you a better lawyer. You definitely don't do stupid things because you value that license that's hanging on the wall because you worked your butt off to get it, and you're not going to do anything to lose it. And so I just think life is that thing that you have to deal with, and you're going to be thrown some curveballs, but just get back up and get back in the batter's box and swing again if you miss, because it's going to happen. And I'm just glad that this kid from Maywood made it, and I go back all the time and do what I can and bring someone else from Maywood to help them become lawyers.
So similar to Chris, I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters. We lived in a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, and so like fighting for hot water in the morning was you have to wake up like at 5 in order to take a nice shower. So, but having a large family and a supportive family, and then going to West Point was interesting because at West Point they test your mental strength, and in terms of I played college football. And then I took on 22 credit hours a semester for 4 years while playing varsity football. You guys know what it's like to take 22 credit hours here. Just put on another 7 or 8 hours of practice, weightlifting, and everything else. So we had this saying, it was called embrace the suck, right? Because, listen, this process isn't fun. Everyone's going through it, but you go through it together and you embrace it. And when I went to combat in Iraq, I'll never forget my first rocket attack when 7 Katyusha rockets start landing around you, and you're sitting in a concrete bunker praying to the dear Lord, sweet baby Jesus, that you're going to make it out of there. And that mentality of embrace the moment and just try to make the most out of it kicks in again. And I think in law school, when you're going through 6 hours of reading, with all your classes, you're cramming for exams, you're like, well, I don't want to, this is silly. What am I doing? I can go make money. I know what that's like because I just graduated law school, 5 years ago, I think it was now? I think it's 5 years ago now. I've been hitting the head too many times, obviously you could tell. But, you just got to embrace, that moment and really make the most out of it because, what else are you going to do? Are you going to quit? That makes no sense to me. In the General Assembly, we're faced with adversity probably every day. Somebody is against our idea, our legislation, whatever it may be, and they're going to come hard at you. Why do you want to have rent control in the city of Chicago? Why do you want to do, increase Medicaid spending when people say the state is broke? They're going to come at you with every rhyme or reason. They're going to threaten you. They're going to run somebody against you. They're going to do all these different things. But you just embrace the moment and you stick to your principles, you stick to your values, and just work through it. And just embrace that moment and embrace the suck, whatever it's, if it stinks, if it sucks, whatever it is, just push on and get through it. And I think everyone in this room has that in them. If you wouldn't be here if you didn't.
Thank you for those responses. So, as one of the largest law schools in the Midwest, we have a lot of students who are interested in perhaps becoming lawmakers. What advice would you have for students who perhaps when they were growing up always said, I want to be a state representative, I want to be a state senator? What advice would you have for them now as they are here attending law school?
I would say run for the Illinois House and not the Senate if you want to get something done. I love my job, can you tell? Honestly, it's probably been the best job of my life. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve in the Illinois legislature. And I tell people all the time, I speak in grade schools, high schools, now law schools here. Unless you have a passion for helping people, don't do it. Mike will tell you, we have a lot of colleagues in Springfield that we believe are there for the wrong reasons. Go for the right reasons. And if you're helping people, you're gonna see the results of it. And I love that, when someone comes to me with an issue and we file legislation on their behalf, and they're there when the governor's signing that bill into law, and to see the look on their face or the tears in their eyes because it's really making an impact. That's what keeps me driving every day to Springfield, 200 miles in the wintertime, a place where the food's not that great. Because you see the results of helping people. But if you just want it for the title, you want to be an elected official, that's not the right reason. Have a passion, believe in that passion, follow it, and fight for it.
It's funny, Chris and I probably will have the same answer, but if you were to ask my wife, she would say, you're the only idiot who spends $1 million for an $80,000 a year job. So if you're doing it for the money, you're in the wrong profession altogether. I mean, you have to have a passion, you have to have a purpose, right? So for me, I've lost a lot of soldiers to suicide, and I lost some young people in my community to suicide. And you'll never forget the day when the parent comes to you and says, my daughter committed suicide because of various reasons. I always want to remember her. I want something to remember her by. And so we wrote a law. It was called Anne Marie's Law. Anne Marie was part of a group in her community where they were like in a suicide cult. I'll commit suicide if you commit suicide. It's the worst thing you can ever dream of as a parent. It's just the worst. And she had one guy said, hey, I'm going to do it. And he didn't do it, but she did, and she's not with us anymore. But the parents want to always remember Anne and always make sure that people know in school, and they want to advocate throughout this process. We were able to create a law that created a suicide awareness prevention policy in schools. So every school, K through 12, has to have a suicide prevention policy and has to have continuing education for teachers to do that. And when we passed that law, I'll never forget it. Parents are in the balcony crying, legislators are crying, because that affects everybody. And you truly just made a difference in someone's life. So if you don't have a passion or a purpose to do what you do, then don't do it. Don't do it at all. I know there's one person in the room who is running for the Illinois Senate. I saw him walk in. I went to law school with him. Don't
do it.
Don't do it. Yeah. But you got to have that passion in everything you do. So whether it's, if you want to be a lawmaker, go 100% be a lawmaker. If you're going to be a mom, be 100%, go all the way, be the best mom you can be. If you want to be, a lawyer, be the best lawyer you can be. I mean, don't half-step it. It makes no sense to do it that way. You're just cheating yourself and you're cheating everybody else.
Thank you for those responses. So one of the things that we wanted to do is give the students an opportunity to ask you questions. Have we discussed everything that you all want to discuss before we open up the floor for questions? You okay?
Yeah.
All right. So if you have a question, if you would stand up, introduce yourself, and speak clearly and ask your question.
Can we make everyone feel comfortable? Chris and we've done this for, 12 years. I don't know how long it's been now. We've been doing this.
We came in together.
So you can ask us anything you want. I'm serious when I say that. It doesn't matter to us. We've had crazy questions. We've had good questions. So anything you want to ask, no holds barred. We're dying to hear it.
The only thing that makes this worthwhile is being able to ask anything you want. So.
Hello, my name is Radhika. I'm a 1L at John Marshall. My question is there anything that you wish you had known when you were at John Marshall that's helpful to you now?
I think personally, going to like contracts class and going to all these, torts class, that's nice to take the class, but it doesn't teach you how to practice the law. And the one thing that John Marshall has is these clinics downstairs on the first floor, the Veterans Clinic, the Family Law Clinic, the Small Business Clinic. My greatest regret of all time was not going to a clinic and learning how to practice the law. I clerked at the appellate court. I sat in a catacomb. I was bored out of my mind. They didn't have internet. They didn't have a cell phone. You couldn't get anything in there outside of LexisNexis. And I'm serious when I say this. You have to learn how to practice law. You just can't read the book. It makes no sense just to read the book. Trust me, I have 5 years of pain and a receding hairline now. So that's my greatest regret and my best advice to you as a 1L student.
I love listening to Mike talk. I think that's the soldier in him. Yeah. But I'll tell you, I loved my John Marshall experience. I think John Marshall prepares you to practice law from day one. When I was here, I did moot court every single year. Right after the Herzog moot court competition, I found another moot court competition and another one after that. And just that experience alone, I thought prepared me for what I'm doing now, all these years later. But the trial advocacy class, that's awesome. Being taught by the federal judges across the street that I step in front of now, wow, just unbelievable. If I wish I wasn't so poor and I didn't have to work during the day, because having to work during the day and go to school at night, it didn't allow me in the summertime to do a law clerk's position at a law firm or something. That would have been something nice to have, but you have to, make do. And I thought the experience within the walls of the building was just spectacular, and I really cherish the memories.
My name is Lamar. I'm a 3L here. How do you guys maintain a work-life balance with being a Senate and being a lawyer?
It's hard. I think it's helpful that my wife is a lawyer, and she understands and she supports the political career. And then you have to police yourself. You can't overdo it. I'll start out a day like today in my district office, mainly because Chicago traffic sucks. And while I'm meeting with people in my district, traffic is dying down. Normally about this time of day, I'm downtown and I get into the office and I can put in a couple hours at the law firm. All of that's fine and good when we're not in session. When we're in session, we're in Springfield every day, January through May. It's hard to get practice law. There's no balancing going on there. It's just you're a full-time legislator during that period of time. From a family perspective, I think you have to police yourself and say, okay, saying no sometimes is good. And typically Sunday is a no day. That's a day to spend with my family. There's sometimes that you have to appear at some major event on a Sunday, and that's understandable, but you have to recognize that family is important, and you have to include them and be with them as much as possible. And I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old that this is all they've known. This is my 7th year in the legislature, and I take my kids to as many things as possible. And I asked my son the other day, I don't know why why we were even having this discussion, but I asked him, I said, do you want to be a state representative? And he said, no, you work too hard, Daddy.
I have a 3-year-old son at home, and we have a baby due on November 8th. So there's nothing, and Matt, who's here today with me, Matt, raise your hand. So Matt runs my office in Springfield, and we brought him up to the district office for the fall season because we wanted to get him out of Springfield. There's a good reason for that. But Matt will tell you, and we have a calendar that is as regimented as it comes. From 4:30 to 6 o'clock, 6:30 is gym time. It's personal mental occupation time. Mondays, as we call Monday, Mikey Monday. It's a day where I'm with my son the whole day while my wife goes to work. And the one thing that we have in our office as a priority is if you have a family event and it conflicts with a political event, the family event takes priority over everything, because this is the only job that I know where everyone begs you to run for office and supports you, but once you take office, you're that guy, and there's somebody else waiting to replace you the next day. And the only thing that you have as a person to fall back on when everything is gone is your family. That's it. So for us, family is probably the most important thing to our office and to me, and it's leader driven. And you as an attorney, you work in a firm, whatever it may be, you may have subordinate attorneys underneath you that there's deadlines. Don't get me wrong, everyone understands what a deadline is, but just to be at work doesn't make sense to me. So you always prioritize your family and then your mental health, because for me, coming back from overseas, if I didn't mentally occupy my time, I probably would have went crazy by now. So having that opportunity to blow that steam off, do what you got to do physically to make sure you're in shape. Don't be A shape, be in shape. That's so important, so important. Because if you don't let that steam off, I mean, you'll, especially going through law school, working and doing whatever else you're doing, you'll go crazy. And I think you and everybody else here in this room know somebody who's sitting in the library right now pulling their hair out and freaking out, or outside smoking Black and Milds like we walked up on that one lady. But you know what I mean? I think you know where I'm coming from. You got to take care of yourself, take care of your family. If not, everything else crumbles.
I'll give you a great example. My 7-year-old is a baseball player, and I played baseball in college, and so baseball is my thing. And just watching him grow up and love the sport, you know, that's just special for me. He's playing fall ball at 7 years old. I never played fall ball, but they have a game every Saturday. Now, in this business, Saturdays, that's a very busy day. So ever since fall ball started, beginning of September, nothing on my calendar is more important than being at that baseball game. My political schedule doesn't start until after fall ball is over on Saturday morning. And so it's important. You gotta put your family first and foremost in this business. And
our family, I think our constituencies understand that too. That's the other thing is when people call the office, they know, don't even try on Monday. It ain't gonna happen. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. And you set the standard up front so you don't have to worry about it on the back end.
Hi, my name is Kayla Bowden. I'm a 1L here at John Marshall. I want to
God
know,
bless you.
how did you evaluate your job prospects after law school? Like, did you put your passion first, or how do you evaluate passion and finances? Because of course we're all in a lot of debt once we graduate.
So for me, did you say Kayla? Yes. So Kayla, I could never be a state's attorney or a public defender. You know, although that's great and noble work and public service is great, I had $150,000 in student loans when I first graduated. So I knew I had to go into private practice upon graduation from law school to pay for that amount of student debt. You know, I know that there's loan forgiveness programs and things of that nature, but I had other debt too. So to me, the driving force was being able to graduate and start making money as quickly as possible. And you know, I didn't know exactly what type of law I wanted to practice. I went to a firm, and after a couple of years of learning, I got bored. When I decided that I was going to leave, they said, "Why are you leaving? What can we do to keep you?" They said, "Well," I said, "this doesn't interest me, but I'm on a school board, and I find this stuff fascinating." They said, "Well, if you want to go out and try to create that line of work for our firm, go for it." And they let me build a practice within my practice. And I love representing school districts and municipalities and park districts and libraries. Every single day I go to work, it's a different issue, you know. And I've argued in the appellate court, both in the 7th Circuit and the state appellate court. I've tried cases, and every case has been different. And so I followed that passion for what I wanted to do just by getting out there and learning what I didn't want to do. And part of that was being driven by the fact that I knew I had to go into private practice and make money as quickly as possible. When I graduated with that amount in debt, you know, I originally was going to try to pay off my loans in 20 years. I actually paid them off in 8, you know, because I was able to get out there and find a good job that I loved and I had passion about, and it turned out it was rewarding.
That's a great question, because I think one of the greatest problems I think our country has is student debt. Whether it's undergraduate, master's, or law degree, whatever it is. You know, I'm not looking to change the system to make school free for people by any means, but I'll just tell you that, you know, student debt weighs a lot of people, young people, down from, you know, achieving other milestones in their life, like getting married or maybe having a child. And it's a shame that we have that burden in our generation that weighs us down, but it's a reality that you have to face. Luckily for me, serving in the military, you know, you get a 9/11 GI Bill, you get the Illinois Veterans Grant, you get a lot of different incentives for serving in this service. And I think, you know, for me, growing up with 6 kids in a family, my parents weren't paying for college, trust me. I had to go out there and earn it in whether it's a scholarship and then the benefits of veterans grants by then. But post law school, you got to start thinking about it. I'm going to get married. I was going to get married to my wife, my now wife, and like, well, how am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And the unique experience at John Marshall is that, number one, you're in the city of Chicago, and you have the opportunity at the federal court. You have major law firms downtown. You have these externship programs here. The only person you have to blame is yourself if you do not take the opportunity to go meet people in the legal industry, if that's what you want to do. There's also a lot of other opportunities here with public accounting firms, you name it. This school has unreal tentacles out there to reach out and touch somebody. Luckily, like for me, what I did was the president of the school at the time, his name was Leonard Amari. Len is the quintessential networker. If you know Len, Len would put you in contact. You could reach right out to the president, and he would have a meeting set up for you there. You just had to have the gall and to go ahead and ask him, hey, would you mind linking me up with so and so if he knew so and so, and he would do it. The professors were the same way. I'm looking at getting into politics with my constitutional law professor. His friend was in charge of one of the advocacy groups, and then that advocacy group introduced me to another advocacy group, and then all of a sudden it's like you're using their networks to benefit you, but you got to produce. You just can't meet the person, hey, good to see you. That person put the name, his name on the line or her name on the line for you. You just don't show up and do nothing. You got to work. And I think that was probably the best part about my John Marshall experience, is that you had unlimited opportunities here. And when I ran for the Senate as a student, I mean, trust me, all the teachers were wondering, like, who's this kid? But a lot of them reached out to help. That my health law teacher, I also hit him up for money too, but you have this network. This is the law school to go to in the city, regardless of Loyola's, their opinion, right? You want to be a judge, you go to John Marshall, right? You want to be a great lawyer, you go to John Marshall. Hey, that law firm down the way was it Corboy Avenue? I think they got a lot of John Marshall's graduates in there too. So you want to learn the law, you come here, and I think you're in the right spot.
If you want to pay public tuition.
Yeah,
go to
you're
John
definitely
Marshall.
in the right spot.
Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Dean Luma. Thank you again for joining us today. How are you?
Good.
And I think you were just touching on it on your last response, how to collaborate and network and build relationships. What I see in the building is that there's at least 2 or 3 generations here and a different approach to what it means to network and a different approach to what it means to have a relationship and a professional network. And just as a lawmaker, I see relationship building as key to what you do. So just if you could expand on how you think students could take advantage of relationships and building networks while they're here to benefit them, which you already started.
First of all, be normal when you go to people. Don't be nervous. Be genuine. You know what I mean? That's probably the hardest part, is going up to somebody you don't know. Chris and I go door to door every day, and we're going to somebody's house. You don't know them, you may know them. Hey, how are you? Mike Hastings, nice to meet you. It takes a lot of repetition to get used to that, but you got to do it. You got to put yourself out of that comfort zone to make you feel, hey, I can do this. And so when you go and make the most out of it, just don't say, hey, how's it going? Tell me about yourself, these generalized questions. Ask them meaningful stuff. Don't ask them some generalized, I could talk to you about the White Sox all day long. What's the best case you're working on? Go in depth, get to know them, get to know people. Tweeting, texting, Facebooking, and all that stuff. And I do it just, I'm guilty as the next one because our profession demands it. But the interaction as a person of going up and talking to somebody is almost like a lost art. Go say hi, and even your law school classmates, I remember sitting in Art Acevedo's class right here, and you couldn't tell who the person was 4 seats down from you. That's a shame. Because in law school, you're all going to graduate, you're all going to work with each other eventually. Somewhere along the line, you're going to run into someone. Trust me. I didn't know I was going to run into Judith's husband, 5-7 years later, I didn't know that, you know, but it's that relationship you build while you're here. It is so important. Just be normal, be yourself, and just reach out and shake someone's hand. It goes 10 miles. It's unbelievable how far that goes.
I think you can be as successful as you want to be, and it starts with you. Literally, I have never applied for a job, and it was because of the people I was sitting next to in a room like this, talking to my classmates, talking to them out in the student section or in the hallway, talking to the professors, talking to those judges that came from over across the street and gave up their time to teach. That's all networking and building a relationship. I worked full time. It wasn't a job in a law firm. It was at WGN-TV during the day and came to law school at night. How did I end up with a law firm job right after graduating? Sitting next to someone in class and talking to them and letting them know what I wanted to do and what my passion was. I will tell you today, I have a lot of people that I went to law school with that I'm still friends with. Probably more of my friends are people I went to law school with. Then I would say many of my friends are people I went to undergrad with. Lesser who I went to high school with. As you move up, your network becomes more and more important with those people. As similar with the legislature. Many of our friends are the people we serve with in Springfield. And it's important. Get to know the people that you're spending a lot of your time with. And those are the very people that may know of an opportunity, and when that opportunity presents, they think of you because they remember that conversation they had when you guys were sitting and talking. So what's happening right now, you took time to come and see this presentation. This is an opportunity to take advantage of, and you never know when you're going to need it, but it's always here. My email, I have a state email and a law firm email. You can send me an email. Who knows? Maybe one of you will be a law clerk at Ansel Glink. Maybe you'll be a law clerk at Mike's law office. You never know when opportunity is going to present itself to you.
You know, the other thing is that the Illinois General Assembly, right, we're always looking for young, talented attorneys. And you don't have to have passed the bar in order to come work in the General Assembly. So working on the staff at the House, working on the staff at the Senate, working at the Legislative Research Bureau, I mean, there are so many opportunities in Springfield. Why not learn the law where the law is created? Currently, right now, we're looking. So where's the 3 L's at in the House? Any 3 L's? Hey, apply. Go to my LinkedIn page. We have the posting right there. Chris and I are on Twitter. We're on every social media platform there is. You can reach out and touch us anytime.
Full disclosure, you got to live in Springfield for some of these jobs.
That's cool and not cool at the same time.
So I'm going to take this opportunity and go out on a little bit of a limb publicly here. The law school would like to start first a semester program of externships in Springfield, maybe as early as next year, and I'm asking for both of your help in that regard, and that was a nice lead-in. The other thing is I want to thank both of you, Senator Hastings, Representative Welch, for coming with us, and Dean Jones for moderating today. Thank you very much.